Calls us to order meeting of the West Newbury Board of Selectmen, Monday, June 8th at 7:04. This meeting is being broadcast on local cable TV and recorded for rebroadcast on the local cable channels and on the internet. The meeting is also accessible by remote participation. The access code is 417-365-965 on GoToMeeting. Okay. First of all, I'd like to thank Mr. McCarron for running a great municipal election under difficult circumstances. There was quite a very good turnout, and he should be commended on that. And is Mike there? He's there. Like to congratulate all the participants, the winners and losers. It was great that we had such a active election in such a difficult situation. And Mike, do you want to remind the newly elected people that they have to be sworn in and so forth?
Yes, everyone who's elected, even if you're an incumbent, I'd expect you to come and be sworn in. The process would be is you give me a call when we make an appointment. I'll meet you at the door, and we'll maintain social distance. And I'll have you basically sworn in and get your material. All I ask is you bring a mask and a pen. And so we've already had a number of them, including Mr. Archibald, who has been duly sworn to his position. So I just request everyone else who was elected to please make the appointment.
The next item is Thursday, June 11th at 2 p.m. Just coincidentally, there will be a Merrimack Valley Planning Council training on 40B and housing production plan. So it's certainly very timely for our town. The details of this are on the town website. And the next item, Rick, do you want to tell us about your listening session?
Sure. So we had, and that's past tense, a listening session for the MVP process scheduled for this Thursday, the 11th. And unfortunately, there's also a ZBA public hearing going on that same night with pretty significant overlap. I think the ZBA public hearing opens at 7, and the listening session was scheduled for 7:30, if I remember right. In any event, we concluded that it was kind of done on the fly today, that the listening session really needed to be rescheduled because we had reason to believe that there were enough people that would be interested in participating in both the listening session and the ZBA meeting, that people were going to get shortchanged. So we're going to reschedule that. That'll be announced sometime in the next few days. And fortunately, we have plenty of time leeway for completing the MVP process. And I would expect sometime in the next couple of weeks that we'll have a rescheduled date for the listening session. So, thank you.
Thanks.
Archie, if I could just clarify, Rick had said 7 p.m. It's actually 6 p.m. Thursday is the Zoning Board of Appeals public hearing.
Thanks, Angus. Sorry about that.
Sure. No worries.
Again, to reiterate, as we do every week, if you want to keep up with things in the town, go to the westnewbury.org and go to the subscribe so you can get the announcements come as an email. Just bear with me. I'd have a couple of comments I'd like to make before we start. And I'm only speaking for myself. I'm not speaking for the board or the town. First off, over the last few months, town employees have been working effectively under quite adverse conditions. At the same time, some of the employees have been handling additional unforeseen duties, a lot of things that we hadn't planned turning up, such as addressing the 40B proposal. And I just want to send some kudos and shout outs to all our employees for the work they've done this spring. And second, related to that, as these less than ideal conditions persist, I'd ask boards and committees and commissions not ask the town to take on new initiatives that expand the workload that they have already. We've got a lot going on. We're building it, as in case anyone forgot, the district is actually building a new high school. That's sort of like this giant $150 million project, and we're not even thinking about that. So that's even going on. So let people catch up on the work that's going on. Second thing I want to talk about is the nationwide events. I don't need to remind anybody of 2020 with protests over racial injustice, economic uncertainty coupled with massive unemployment, and the fear over the worldwide pandemic. It just sort of made me focus on our connectedness. And we're here on this small planet for a very short time. And I don't pretend to have any solutions for any of these things, but we have a lot of things that we can disagree about. But let's, with all these things going on, let's try to treat each other with respect and make our small corner of the earth a little better place than we found it. So, a little comment.
Can I comment on your comment, Archie? Archie? Well said.
Thank you. And so we have we discussed an item in executive session that we would like to add to the end of the agenda, and this will be related to signing a memorandum of understanding on the funding and the project of the Middle Street Bridge with the city of Newburyport. So we'll be doing that at the end of the regularly scheduled agenda. It wasn't on the agenda, but this is highly timely, and we'd like to get it done tonight. So, without further ado, we will start on the regular business.
I think we need to vote on that to add it. I would make a motion that we would add that.
We have to vote that. Okay, good point. Okay.
Okay, I'll second that.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye. Kemper, aye.
Aye, Parker.
The first item on the regular agenda is the FY21 library personnel budget.
She coming?
The library trustees had asked to add an additional person for FY21, but now with the uncertainty of how the library is going to work this year, even going to at least for the fall, they have requested that item no longer that additional person no longer be added, at least at the moment. So that's where that stands. Is there any of you here from the library, or Angus, do you want to comment on that, or?
Can you hear me?
We can, Corinne, yes.
Okay. Hi, it's Corinne.
Well, I didn't see
I don't
you.
have any. That's okay. I'm on the phone. I don't have any comments. I just wanted to let you know that I am here.
Great, thanks.
Well, can you hear me?
I can.
Yes,
Yeah.
we can.
I would say, Corinne, thank you, and thank the Library Board of Trustees for kind of rethinking this. I think that we did support this as selectmen, but thank you for understanding in, the times that we have, and then we can, push this off to a later date. I appreciate your forward thinking under the circumstances. Thank you.
Absolutely,
No.
sure.
Do we have to make a motion on this, Angus, or this is in the budget? So how are we gonna, we're changing the line item budget? Is that what we're doing?
Well, as you know, the Finance Committee's recommendations constitute the initial motion at town meeting. And the Finance Committee's recommended budget had not included the new position anyhow. So the initial motion will not change. What may happen is someone on the floor of town meeting, the discrepancy in the FinCom booklet between the FinCom number and the Selectmen recommended number. So you may be asked about that.
But we could put a hold. We can put a hold on it. So, and that will probably be. We should probably designate one of the selectmen to put a hold on it, just so it keeps in one direction. And then we would give a brief understanding that, under the circumstances, the Board of Library Trustees voted not to have this position, but would like to, not then say like to address this at a, maybe next fiscal year after we get done with all the COVID stuff. That's it.
That would be great.
So as far as putting that hold on is concerned, we had talked about the light item budget being introduced as a whole. I don't recall where that finally ended up going, but in the interest of time, we had talked about possibly introducing the line item budget as a whole. So I guess we would just need to insert that specifically, the whole specifically, even though it wasn't itemized in conversation. That make sense?
It makes sense, but that was just kind of a theory at that point. So hopefully that things didn't get done, but there are certain things that we're going to have to put a hold on.
Right. Yep.
The other question is, maybe we can, I would ask the board if they would be agreeable to take part of item J out of order. Corinne is here now, and there wanted to be a little bit of discussion about where we stand on the reopening of the library.
Okay, that's fine by me. Take it out of order.
Me too.
Okay. So Angus or Corinne, do you want to enlighten us on that?
I'll just preface. So what you had, which was sent out Friday afternoon, it came in after the packet went out, but it's still timely because this discussion of planning for phased reopening of town buildings was already on tonight's agenda under item J, as you noted. So hopefully you have in front of you a forward email from Corinne Flaherty, the library director, with a proposed plan to allow for curbside pickup for customers of the library beginning next week. This plan will be taken up by the Library Board of Trustees at their meeting. Let's see, remind me, when is at their June 9th meeting? So I believe this was put in front of the board to see if you had any suggestions on it before it goes to the library board for their endorsement next week.
I do have some suggestions, Mr. Chairman. Can I speak? Glenn.
Corinne, did you want to elaborate on the intent before we get into board discussion?
No, you can get right to the discussion and I'll answer any questions.
Great.
Go ahead, Glenn.
Do we have anybody on here from the Board of Health? Paul, are you here? Okay, so Corinne, the only thing I would say, I think this is terrific, awesome, and whatever. But when you guys vote your, or maybe you could talk to Paul Savigny from the Board of Health before your meeting and just ask him for his recommendations, maybe. And so then you could incorporate into your vote tomorrow. That's all I would say, that we would just make sure we contacted the Board of Health, and ahead of time, you told them exactly what you were going to do, and maybe he could have some suggestions, or he could say, green light on everything you guys did, or maybe he might want to tweak a few things just for public safety, because they've kind of been the point on opening different things like the parking lots at Pipe Stave and so forth and so on. So that would be my only suggestion.
Okay, I'm happy to do that. I will send it to him tomorrow and ask him for his feedback.
Corinne, there is a posted Board of Health meeting tomorrow at 4:30. So I'm not
Okay.
sure. I know they have quite a lot on their agenda.
Mhm.
I'm not sure if they'll be able to get into this in detail at that time, but I just wanted to.
Well, I was just looking at her to discuss with our health agent. He would make some good recommendations on, if she said we're going to put things on the roof and people are going to have to climb up there, he would say probably that's not a good idea. I'm being facetious. I don't know what I read their plan a little bit. Maybe she could just have an informal conversation with Paul, but since he's our health agent, and say, hey, this is what we plan on doing. Do you see any problems with it on a health aspect of it? And maybe make some recommendations that we can make it better and safer for our people, so I can bring that back to my board so we could vote on it. That's all. I'm not looking for any formal thing. Paul's our, our health agent. He can make some recommendations to make sure this works, and I love it. It just makes it work and make sure everybody's healthy, so everybody's on board, so nobody's Monday morning quarterbacking after it's done.
Gotcha. Okay, I can definitely do that. Were you able to hear my answer?
Yeah, we got you, Corinne.
Yep, I got it.
Okay.
I just try to mute real quick so I don't stuff. But yep, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, our next item of business is the special town meeting warrant derived from the citizens petition to provide supplemental funding regarding the Coffin Street, Main Street 40B proposal, and scheduling the date and time of said special town meeting. So I guess the first thing is it's the board really has no discretion in this. We have to vote to accept it, accept the a special warrant item as it has the required number of certified signatures. So that's not subject to dispute. I guess now we just want to talk about time and place and so forth. So I guess the consensus that talking with moderator and the people from the DPW, public safety, we had a lot of Board of Health, we had a lot of input, and the feeling was that on Saturday, June 27th, after the regular annual town meeting and the regular special town meeting, we would have not recess that, but close that out, and then actually start the new special town meeting at 2:00 in the afternoon in the same place at the baseball fields. So behind the bandstand. So that's the idea at the moment, to have it at 2:00 on the same Saturday, with the hope that the regular town meeting would be ended by 12:15.
Now, why wouldn't we just do it all at the same time? So you're gonna have actually people leave and then come back?
Some of the feeling was that it might be two populations of people. We've always wanted to have to not have special interest items, say in the beginning of a meeting, and then people leave. The regular, for example, the annual town meeting, people just come to vote for one item and leave. We want to kind of prevent a lot of extraneous people moving through the entrances and exits, and that's one item.
But then you're asking us to then check people in at two separate times, I guess, or more people, because it looks like we're doubling it. So if everything ends at 12:30 and then everybody disbands and then everybody's going to come back at 2:00, why can't we just, I'm not sure, but why can't we just have it scheduled earlier and then the moderator puts it off until the end? But then we take it up immediately after, so we don't have to have a slew of people leaving and then a slew of people coming. I would just think the health risk would be even greater. Then we have to check more people in, and I don't know. I don't know. I can't remember the logistics of it, but I would think that we could, post it at a time. Mike, are you there? McCarron?
I'm here.
So hypothetically, we have our, our town meeting scheduled at 10 a.m. And then she goes, regular course of business. She goes through that first thing, and then she puts the regular town meeting on hold, and then we go through the special town meeting. Then we go back to the other one, then our regular town meeting, and then we could have the other special town meeting, couldn't we? And I know that then the only hard part about that would be guessing what time it was, but why couldn't we post it at 10:00, but not get to it until 1:00? Because I thought we have duty of posting it to make sure that people are aware when it's going to be, but it could be earlier and not get to it, but it never can be later.
The answer is that, well, and I'll just say is that if you post it all at the same time, the moderator has the determination of when she wishes to hold each meeting.
Yeah.
And I'll give it to you, Casey.
Glenn, the reason that I suggested that we post the second special town meeting for 2 is that it is a special interest group, that people will have been sitting outdoors for at least 2 hours. I don't think we're going to be able to get through the annual and first special town meetings in much less time than 2 hours, at which time it becomes high sun time. There are probably going to be people at the annual and first special town meeting who aren't interested in the second special town meeting. Likewise, there will probably be people who are interested in the second special town meeting who aren't interested in the annual and first special town meetings. It's a different clientele, if you will, of people who might be interested in those meetings. And what we're trying to do in general is to ensure the safety of everyone. And if we have people getting up to leave because their article has been dispensed with, or because the annual and special town meetings have been dispensed with, we end up with bottlenecks at the egress, which is what we're trying to avoid. So the thought was that we call the annual and first special town meeting at the normal 10:00 time, handle that the way we always have, with one small exception, which I'll tell you later. And then those 2 meetings are adjourned, and you have your budget and you have your money for the expenditures that you need for fiscal reasons. Then in the height of the high sun time, between 12 and 2, we take a break. And everyone can go and get some lunch, get something to drink, get out of the sun. And then at 2:00, we have the special town meeting. There were 300 and some people who signed that petition. They don't feel that they're going to have a hard time getting a quorum. I want to talk about quorum later too, though. And so that was the reasoning. If we have everybody sitting there straight through, right through the noon hour and into the high sun hours, it's going to be a burden on people. And people will be trying to leave en masse at various times. And that's what we're trying to avoid.
First of all, nobody should be allowed without a mask on. But I guess, in principle, I guess I understand that. But I don't think there is that much. I mean, the people that have signed the petition, whomever. I mean, you're looking at maybe even 60 or 70% of people that care about the other aspects of town too. So, the signs I just see around town is you're going to get everybody there. So whatever. In concept, I agree, but I just see bringing people in and then bringing people out was what we have talked about in previous meetings was the hardest part. As soon as we get the people seated and whatever, that would be the easiest part. It was like getting people in and getting them seated and in proper space and stuff. That was the hardest part. So if you have to do that twice, that was only my thought process. But yeah, I can agree with that. I can agree.
The other thing that I wanted to mention, so it's a bit of a non sequitur, but I'll bring it up here. The state legislature just passed a motion within the last couple of that the selectmen can reduce the quorum required at the annual town meeting.
Yeah, we have that legislation in front of us. Mike gave it to us.
Reason being that people may be afraid to go to town meeting, and it may be more difficult to get a quorum. So the Board of Selectmen has the authority to reduce the quorum to 10% of the normal quorum, which for us would be 9 people. You don't have to reduce it to 10%. It can be reduced to some other. I have no feeling right now for how many people may be coming to town meeting on June 20th. It's just, you know.
We thought about, we're going to have we're going to have another meeting about the 40B on this upcoming Monday, a week from that. We thought about taking some discussion about this, reducing the quorum, and then taking a formal vote on it, because we have to, because legislation says that we have to post it 7 days ahead of time when we're going to take the vote, and then maybe take a vote on the 22nd on that. We've had some preliminary discussions about that.
I would like to ask Mr. Doak what he get any vibe back in terms of how many people do you think would show?
Mr. Chairman, thank you. I appreciate the question. It's something I wanted to share. It's I want to is when shared there is huge activity on this. I'm the aspect of it, and a lot of people that are on this call and others, and I think that we say a special interest group, it is, but it's also about 380 plus special interests more than show up normally at town meeting. So to me, the importance of the petition in the form it's in, as citizens have gone out and signed this, should rise to one of the highest levels of what's on that day, 27th. Now, that being said, I understand there's the budget, but other than the budget, it's that this should be placed very high in overall importance. Not saying that it isn't, but we have to work that through the logistics. 2 p.m., I am getting much more pushback on because it's more the heat of the morning, the heat of the day. 4 p.m. is probably when the sun starts to wane a bit, and have less. And you do have a number of people, I would agree with Councilman Kemper or Selectman Kemper, that there are people that want to go to the entire town meeting. So the same 200-ish that we get at an annual town meeting, a number of those are supporting this citizen petition. So I think that it would certainly be our desire to have it to be early because you're going to logistics. I don't know how many people are going to show up, but let's say 300 show up. Let's say 250 show up at 2 p.m. You're going to have the same problem ushering people in and out at the same time. You're just going to have a mass exodus because you're going to have one article. So I think that to me, it seems that having it as part of the starting at 10, and I would ask if there's any way for it to be placed higher up, articles, knowing that the annual budget is extremely important, but you had 380 plus people sign it. That's important.
Casey, do you want to comment on that?
I would just say this. It's my call and as to what order I take up the all posted at 10. And I will not post that special town meeting before either the annual or the first town meeting because those are critical for the running of the town. So at best, we would be asking people who came to the town meeting at 10 o'clock and the annual and first special town meetings will be completed before we will take up that meeting. I would prefer to have the break because I think there will be people at the annual and first special town meeting who will want to leave. I have no idea how many. I'm guessing on this. And we need to have an orderly egress of people from the meeting so that we avoid bottlenecks at the fence, at the gates, at whatever. And so we'll have to take time to ask people to exit in an orderly fashion, row by row, or whatever, which will further slow things down. And my thought was that at that point we are going to be at midday, and so it's going to be, people will have been sitting there for a long time. It's going to be hot, and people who came only for the 40B meeting are going to be sitting there for two hours plus. I hope participating in the annual town meeting, but that's not the primary reason that they'll be there. If the decision of the board is to post that meeting at 10 along with the other two, then the order we will take them up in is I'll open the annual town meeting the way we always do. And I will take the town meeting through the line item budget, the annual town meeting, before I recess it for the special town meeting, because the line item budget is the most important part of this meeting at this point. Now, let me just say a few words about this problem about how we're going to address the line item budget. It is fine to me if everyone wants to do it the way we always have. However, I feel that we can save some time if rather than reading every line item and saying, and the recommendation of the finance committee is blah, blah, and whatever, and please without hold. I simply make it clear to everyone before the meeting that they should familiarize themselves with the entire warrant, including the line item budget. And when we get to the line item budget, I will simply read the numbers of the lines. Item number 1, item number 2. If you want to discuss that, you say hold, but we'll save the time of having me read every line. The motion on the floor is from the finance committee to accept their recommendations. Anything that doesn't have a hold put on it, and this is just like we always do it. The only difference is that I'm not going to do all that reading. I'm just going to go through the line item budget, say the number of the line. If you want to put a hold on it, you put a hold on it. After we go through that, the ones that don't have a hold on them are considered passed. And then we go and take up the ones that have holds for whatever the discussion needs to be. And if you wanted to put a hold, for example, on the library budget to explain that, what you just said, that's fine. So, but that was the only proposal that I had for trying to expedite the line item budget to keep from just reading everything out. I don't have to do that if everyone thinks that's a bad idea. I can do it the old way. I'm just trying to cut the time down that people have to sit there in the heat and whatever and listen to me talk.
I think it's a great idea. Mr. Chairman, can I make a comment? Or ask Casey a question? Glenn.
Go.
Casey, so what about posting everything for like just like 10 o'clock, okay? And then you make a game time decision if you feel that the annual town meeting and our regular special town meeting is running too long, and then you just like look at everybody and you make a game time decision because it could be nice that day, it could be hot that day. I mean, it's all about that day, and then you then make and say, okay, I'm going to recess until 2 o'clock, but at least have the ability to continue if everything's going fast and everything's going smooth. The last time this town had a 40B project in front of them that we had to even we thought we were going to discuss, but then it became no action. We had to move the whole thing to down to the high school when they were going to put one up where those two houses across from Craven's Corner now are going, those two duplexes. So, but I think this is more of a, not a special interest thing. I'm seeing it more as a town-wide thing because this thing isn't a special interest just for Coffin Street in Cortland Lane. This is a something for the whole town. And I think you're going to get a lot of people that would just regularly go to town meeting and want to go, and you might get another extra 20%, maybe 25% of special interest people that might never have gone, but they're going because they're in their neighborhood. But this is a townwide issue, and I think you're gonna just whatever. I'm speaking too much. But what about the game time decision type of thing? Have it all posted, but then you make the decision about that last 40B thing then, and saying, okay, yeah, I can look at the crowd and they're distressed. They need a break. They need to go to the bathroom, whatever they need to do. It's 107 degrees and we're taking a break until 2 o'clock. Or it could be 70 degrees that day.
Well, Glenn, of course I have that's what I can do. My thought about it was if there are people who show up at 10 o'clock, because at this point, you don't know what I'm going to do. It's just what you said. It's a game time decision. I'm going to stand there and I'm going to look at the crowd and I'm going to see how people are responding to things. And I'm going to see if we had a lot of people go off to the first aid station or whatever. And if I feel like, you know, it's gone long enough and it's 90 degrees and it's noontime and you know, a lot of people have been sitting here for 2 hours and their item didn't come up because it's the third town meeting. They might not be too thrilled to find out that they just sat there for 2 hours and now I'm telling them we're going to recess until 2 o'clock.
Or maybe we can make that. Maybe we can make that. I get it. I think we're overthinking everything, but I would say that we would have everything early and try to get through everything. And then if people can't understand, they can't understand. I mean, come on. I mean, whatever. That's my own opinion.
I know we've thought about 10 because it gives us plenty of time to set up and people to get there and a little ahead of time to sit and stuff. But what if we push it forward to 9:30 or something, and we get people there a little bit early? Because the later it goes, the hotter it gets. There's no question about that. Is that what about that?
Well, I don't think you can change it now because the warrant says 10.
Good point.
My suggestion would be that
Archie, are you suggesting to start the second special town meeting earlier?
No, I meant the whole thing. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. No, Casey's right.
Okay.
I would just say post the whole thing and make people aware that we could take a break. We might not be, but let them sit there. Everybody else is going to sit there. I mean, you're going to find out, but people, this isn't as special interest as we think. This is more of a town-wide, not effort, but maybe effort's the word, but whatever it is. This is something that affects the town. This doesn't just affect Coffin Street, Cortland Lane, and all those people that live down there. This is a town-wide effort, and I think you're going to get people that were going to be there the whole time. You might get 20%. So if we have 200 people, it's 20% of people that are special interest. So I say stack them all up, and Casey, you make the game time decision. If people can't understand it, then I'm sorry, they can't understand it.
Mr. Chairman, may I ask a question of the town council, please?
Go for it.
Good, thank you. Michael, I just want to get a sense from you legally. I'm sorry, I don't have an answer to this right now, but it just popped into my head. This warrant is written that this special meeting shall take place within 45 days of the annual town meeting. What option is there for it to happen on another day? Legally, I'm not talking about logistically or cost to town. I'm talking legally.
It's basically, it has to be held within 45 days from the time that I certified the signatures. So it's up to the Board of Selectmen. They have the discretion to call the special town meeting at any time as long as it's within 45 days. The board sets the time and the date for that petitioned special meeting.
Okay, thank you. There is an additional topic, Mr. Chairman, beyond the logistics of when this would be taken. This petition was drafted and drawn up prior to the introduction of a number of things around 53G, around peer review, payment by developer, within 53G. So as that has come to light, it would appear that there is opportunity for motion to reduce the dollar amount. And so I wanted to bring that to the selectmen, potential motion there.
Yeah, I would ask Casey to make, she's gonna make the determination on that, but it's certainly the as it's written now, and any proposed changes would still be notifying the town of the intent, and it wouldn't be disqualifying the warrant article. I don't think. No.
Right. My goal.
Not at all. As long as the number goes
Right.
down, it can't go above.
Yeah, and my goal was more that we vet through a number with FinCom and Board of Selectmen before we go to that meeting, the special town meeting.
That might help a lot of discussion on the floor too, if we have something that we have all agreed upon.
That's my goal.
That's a great point.
Yes, I'm thinking that the article with the number of signatures and so forth already is going to pass overwhelmingly, so that the only subject of discussion is going to be the zeros. And so, yeah, if we could come up with a sort of agreeable number ahead of time, not to say that it couldn't change, but ahead of time, then I could imagine the thing being over in 15 minutes.
Right, and that was the goal, Mr. Chairman, is just to do that. There's one other area that I'd like to have stricken from there upon the motion, and it's the word peer review. Again, this article was drafted prior to knowledge and understanding of 53G, which does address peer review. So
Yeah, I would ask Casey, you can probably answer that right now.
Yes, I can. Do you want me to?
Please, yes.
Okay, there are two different issues before us. The first one is, Mr. Doak, you do not have to make a motion to reduce the amount. We do not vote on the warrant article. The warrant article simply warns the town of the business before it. We vote on a motion that's made under that article. That motion can be for any amount, as Glenn said, as long as it's not more than what was in the article. Now, therefore, there's a warrant, there's an article on the warrant, which I will, and then someone will make a motion. And that motion can be for any amount you want. It could be for $1, or as I understand it, the warrant article says $250,000. Anything, any amount that you want, as long as it doesn't exceed $250,000, is a legitimate motion, and there's nothing that needs to be amended. That's just the motion you're going to make. That's simple. The other issue is the wording. The article says that you want, I'm sorry, I don't have it in front of me. No, the article doesn't say you want professional services. It says you want
It
peer.
says legal and peer-reviewed consulting. And if we strike peer-reviewed, we have legal and consulting.
And that's my call. If the motion does not exactly mirror the language of the article, then I have to make a decision about whether what you actually say when you make the motion is in the spirit of what was in the article. And if I decide that what you say in the motion is in the spirit of what was in the article, it's a legitimate motion. And I have already decided that that change is in the spirit of what you have put into the article. So that change is not going to cause you any problems. So what you need to do is very simple. After I read the article the way it's written, which is not what you want, I understand that, but that's the way it is. Once I read the article the way it's written, you make a motion that reflects what you really want, the amount that you really want, and the language that you really want. And both of those, as far as I can tell now, because you haven't gone over the amount, and the language that you're proposing is certainly within the spirit of the article, that motion is acceptable, and that's all you have to do is make that one motion.
And there has been, thank you. And there has been discussion about, due to the amount of items, to have Board of Selectmen make a motion versus someone from the audience like myself. Is there any thoughts on that?
That is a process that we have decided on, and by we, I mean the group of people concerned with the safety of the meeting. And we had a meeting on Saturday, myself, town council, Board of Health, police, fire, public works, one of the selectmen, and the town manager, to discuss the procedures that we need to use to optimize the safety of all the people involved. And consider this, we're going to have a lot of people sitting in a field, social distancing, we have them set apart well, and we're going to have 2 microphones for people to speak. But if people have to get up for every motion and go to the microphone and speak, they're going to be sitting in a rather large area. And so the decision that we wanted to adopt was that the selectman, one selectman, a designated selectman, would actually be the person who made all of the motions, even ones that didn't come from the selectmen to begin with. So those motions could be given to the selectmen in writing so that they'll read exactly what you want. They won't change anything. They're just going to make the one selectman who's in charge of making motions is going to make all of the motions for all of the articles, so we can avoid having people getting up, coming to the microphone, sitting back down again. We're trying to minimize the amount of movement around the whole process. Now, we are not going to discourage people from having discussion, and we will have 2 microphones for discussion. So once the motion is made anyone who wants to can get up and approach the microphones and do the usual discussion. I'm not cutting off discussion at all. The idea is just to make the whole process of reading the articles and making the motions as simple as possible so that we avoid having a lot of people getting up and down and walking around each other during the meeting. But you can write the motion exactly the way you want it read, and the selectman who reads the motions will read exactly what you gave him.
So can I speak to that? I cut out for a while because I lost my step up. If you're nervous about the motion, of course, because this is a citizen petition, maybe the first time people have done this, Mike McCarron is the one to talk to make sure it's vetted properly, and then he would check with Casey beforehand. We've done this before with people with citizens petitions and stuff. So don't be nervous about if it's going to be a proper motion or not. Mike is there and Casey is there to make sure that you get it right before you get on town meeting floor, and then all of a sudden you feel nervous about not being right.
Thank you, Glenn. Yeah, my goal was that we have the dollar amount as something that Board of Selectmen and FinCom and our citizens petition, my drafting it, feel good about based on the knowledge we gained from 53G once that came forward. So it sounds like what I'll do is draft that and send that to Mike to look at, but then send it to Board of Selectmen and FinCom
And Casey.
and Casey. Okay.
I mean, just so you understand, things like I don't know, just say 15 years ago, when a motion was made, it was made to buy a new police cruiser. Well, we bought a used one. We saved the town some money, but the motion wasn't correct. You understand what I mean? That's how precise it needs to be. So it kind of gets a little scary on your behalf because you haven't done it before. But going through Mike and going through Casey, everything will be fine.
That's great. And Glenn, my goal was that, again, the dollar amount to be something that was within.
Don't get scared with the dollar amount.
Okay.
Because that money's not spent. It just sits there.
Right. It's not. It's in. It's moved.
So with a good sunset clause, all that money is, just say 250, or you say whatever the amount is, because you don't know what the amount is, as long as it's not higher. All that money is going to be transferred back into free cash anyways. We're not going to spend it like fucking sailors. So
Glenn, you have to remember, this is not a good financial year. Our revenues are going to be down, and we don't want to encumber just money sitting around that we can't use until next June. That's not a good recommendation either.
No, I said with a good sunset clause. You missed that point. Maybe whatever. I would agree that we have it shorter than whatever, because all we know is we don't know. But it's like, actually, we have $2 million in free cash. We're not spending that. And this money, whatever we don't spend, is going to go back into it.
No, but remember, we're going to need more free cash because our revenues for the town as a whole are going to be down. You just have to keep that in mind.
I totally agree with you, but we're not going to spend that free cash until next fiscal year. And as long as we have this sunset clause that ends before then, the money will be available for us to spend then.
I don't know if you can do that.
Have a sunset clause?
Well, I don't know if you can spend it in the same year. Okay, well, that's
something we can figure out.
Okay, so let's. I would ask Mr. Doak and other members other people that he's talking to, think about a number, and we can have this.
Can we have a little subcommittee, because we seem to be talking about this at all the same time at the selectmen's meeting for like an hour. So can we ask Mr. Doak and maybe Mike and Angus or whomever, or maybe one selectman, maybe not even need a selectman, maybe to meet a couple of times just to figure out before town meeting and get a good number. So then the motion, maybe ask outside counsel how much theoretically it would cost if we got this peer review, that one, whatever it is. And then, that number is pretty well vetted. So when people ask that question, how are we spending this much money? Well, boom, 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 boom. And then they go, okay, perfect. Thank you.
Well, that's what we want to do. That's going to be it takes time. It isn't going to be the vote as a whole.
I would agree with you, actually.
And Glenn, happy to meet with a subcommittee on that. And we have a good amount of those numbers vetted out. So the numbers that we came to were not random. But again, as the 53G came forward, it allowed us to, if need be, reduce the 250,000.
Got it.
That's
Okay, next thing.
Actually, can we just back up for a second? I'm still confused about timing. We talked about various ideas. I know Casey, or I think Casey was an advocate for 2 o'clock. Are we still at 2 o'clock, or it just seemed like that the issue of timing ended in a somewhat ambiguous state?
Yeah, I would agree with that. Hey, what's our drop dead date?
Glenn, let me speak for a sec, please.
Yep.
So I just like to float an idea, Casey, that, and maybe this is possible, maybe it's not, but what if the special town meeting for the funding for peer review for 40B was scheduled for, say something like I don't know, 11 o'clock or 10:30. And based on conditions, everybody's going to have a cell phone. And we know how it works, that people communicate with other people, sending a text out saying to their friends, hey, don't bother to show up until such and such time. I've seen it at town meetings many times. And if the meeting was scheduled to open at 10:30 or 11 or some earlier time, then it would give us the possibility of flowing directly into it, as opposed to evacuating and then regrouping. Is that?
Well, actually, Rick, it doesn't matter from that perspective whether it says it opens at 10 or whether it says it opens at 10:30 or 11 or 12:30, because I've already told you, we are going to do the annual town meeting and the first special town meeting before we do anything else. I don't have any idea right now how many people are going to show up for any of these town meetings. I know there's a lot of interest in the special town meeting on the 40B proposal. I know that. I don't know how many people are comfortable with the annual town meeting. I know there are a lot of people, a lot of towns have really cut their warrants down to bare bones, just only things that are absolutely critical to keep the town running. And they've also lowered their quorums because they're concerned that people will be uncomfortable even going to a town meeting. And we're doing everything possible, and by we, I mean the whole team of people that's been working on this, working very hard on this. We're doing everything possible to try to anticipate potential problems, anticipate areas where there could be bottlenecks, where people could be exposed more than they need to be. We're trying to keep things as streamlined as possible to get people in and out and not have them grouping together any more than absolutely necessary. So whatever you do with the time on the meeting, and that is your call, it's not my call. Whatever you do with the time for the third special town meeting or the second special town meeting, I'm not going to take it up until the annual and first special town meetings are adjourned and we know we have a budget and we know we have whatever.
Okay.
Now, I would like to believe, and I think that it's probably true, that there are quite a number of people that are interested in the 40B project who are also interested in the annual town meeting. And so they may be more than willing to start at 10, come to the annual town meeting, go through the whole process of the annual and special town meeting, and then take up the second special town meeting immediately after. And if that's what people are willing to do, that's fine. It is probably going to be during the middle of the heat of the day, because I can't imagine we're going to get through 24 warrant articles on the annual town meeting and 9 or 10 on the special in less than a couple of hours. It's, and especially since we logistically, we have some problems with getting people to the microphones and seeing the vote. I mean, it's going to take a little bit of a learning curve for all of us to figure out how to handle this special situation. Nevertheless, I'm convinced that we can do it. I mean, people in West Newbury tend to be pretty cooperative and helpful, and we'll work it out. Somehow we'll get it done. But it's not going to be as easy as it is if we're just all in the annex. So it's going to require a little bit of patience on everybody's part to kind of work through some of the glitches that we might have. Reports that I've gotten from other towns that have had unique town meetings, and they're all over the place different, they've gone very well. So I'm encouraged by the fact that, people in general tend to understand the situation and are being very cooperative about dealing with the meeting. So if you want to set all the meetings for 10 o'clock and just, say everybody just has to stay there right through, that's what we'll do. I feel that it might be a good idea to take a break during the heat of the day. If you wanted to adjourn later, if you wanted to say, and the other town meeting will be at 4 o'clock. I mean, there's plenty of light on June 27th. So we don't have to come back at 2 o'clock. We could have an even bigger difference. I don't think that there's probably much problem with getting a quorum for the 40B town meeting. There's a lot of interest in it. You're right. However, I will say that I talked to somebody just this weekend who asked me, what are these signs about around town? And this is somebody who comes to town meetings. So it's not necessarily universally understood exactly what this is all about. So don't delude yourself into thinking that all 4,000 plus people in West Newbury understand the whole thing. They don't. But at the same time, I would not hazard a guess as to how many people will come to the annual town meeting. There have been times in the past when we had trouble getting 90 people for an annual town meeting when there was no coronavirus. So, I just don't have a guess on that. I hope that we won't have any trouble getting a quorum, but I hope you will discuss this idea of lowering the quorum, because we do need to get this budget done. This is a very, very critical thing. And June 27th is only 3 days before June 30th. So we can't play around with it. I mean, we have to do the best we can to get the annual and special town meetings done in a timely fashion. But if you think the best thing to do is to just set them up and leave it up to me to use my judgment on it, I will do that.
Rick, and Archie, just want to let you know is that you guys have to make a decision tonight, because the warrant has to be posted by Friday. So you're going to have to make a vote and pick a time.
Okay,
What time of at what point in the meeting do you want to do that now, or?
we have a lot of stuff to get accomplished tonight. I think
I know this is taking a lot longer than I thought it was going to take.
I know. So, no more talking.
So- Well, we have to make a vote.
No more talking. I know. So let's have a.
Okay, I make a motion to schedule the second special town meeting for noon. And that way it can always go later than that, but if we're lucky, will give us enough time to segue into that directly from completing the annual town meeting and the special town meeting.
I'm going to second that for discussion. So the discussion being is that Casey then can determine if she needs to have a recess at noon or whatever, and then recall it back at 2 o'clock. Is that correct, Casey?
Yes, and okay, so the warrant's your business. I don't tell you what to do. But once we get to the meeting, that's my business. And if I determine that we need to recess for whatever reason, I can recess and say, we'll come back at 2. And I'm not saying I'm going to do that. I will use my judgment about, how people are doing or whatever. But I do need to avoid a mass exodus.
Casey, I think you're right on there, and you should make that decision at the time, what makes the most sense to you at the time. I'm just trying to sort of buy us flexibility. Maybe if we're lucky, we'll breeze right through, and at least we've left that door open.
I would agree.
I think if we get the dollar figure somehow, not necessarily in stone, but at least that a lot of parties are forewarned about and somewhat agreeable to, that will limit the amount of time on this item. I think that's going to be the only long part of this item. And you see how much talking can go on about things. We've spent a half an hour on this, and we haven't even figured out what time to do it. So
no, I would agree with you, Archie, because it's all about spending money to get more information about a 40B. So if we have those defined before the meeting, I don't think anybody is going to even vote no. I mean, all we're doing is asking the town to spend a little bit more money to get more information and to have a better understanding how 40B is going to affect this town. And if we have all that stuff and answered right ahead of time, I think it'll go quick.
My only problem with Rick's motion is, say we've got 105 people there at the regular meeting, and then 150 people show up at 11:55. That's going to be chaos. That's what I'm concerned about.
I would say start them all at the same. I would say honestly, start them all at the same time. Start them all at the same time like we always do, and then Casey has to make a game time decision. It could be a beautiful day, and we could flow through everything, or it can be pure hell. All we know is we don't know, and Casey has to manage it well, and then we deal with it there. But it all starts at the same time, and then we just go through it as fast as we possibly can.
If everyone remembers how we dealt with the school vote, that was not going to be near the beginning, but with the overflow into the cafeteria and stuff, we decided we moved it up, talking all amongst ourselves, including KC, we moved it up, and maybe we have to do it in this situation, but there's no promise that will happen.
It sounds like Casey, and I would agree with her, is steadfast on doing the line item budget in the special town meeting to make sure that the town operates properly. And I would actually agree with that, the way she wants to do it. And then we just figure it out at the end. But have it all start at the same time, and then figure it out.
Okay, so I would make an amendment to Rick's motion that we start at all 3 town meetings start at 10.
I would agree with that. I would second that.
That's fine.
Okay.
I have one question, because there are obviously, what are there, 300 and some signatories to this petition. We do not normally see 300 plus people at a town meeting. The only town meetings that we've seen more than a couple of hundred were last spring when we had the school budget where we had 900. And then we had a fairly sizable number turnout for the solar panel meeting. But
How many were at the solar panel? Do we know? How many were at the solar field?
It wasn't 300. It was probably 200, maybe 250.
We did not.
280.
We did not have to the annex. We had enough room in the annex that we
So it was
didn't-
280. Mike's saying it was 280.
Okay,
So we don't typically have that many people at a town meeting. And there are always people who think that their motion should come first because they're all there for that motion, and then they can all leave. And that in fact happens when their motion does happen to be first. We have that article and then everybody gets up and leaves. And it's a common, it happens everywhere. It's not just West Newbury, it's everywhere. Now, I want people to understand that if all three of these meetings are called for the same time, I can't open 3 meetings at once. People are used to the process that we've gone through for years and years and years now, when we have the annual and special town meeting on the same day, that we open the annual, we do a certain amount of things, then we recess the annual, we pick up the special, do the whole special, adjourn the special, then go back to the annual and finish it up. That's the way we've done it forever. I'm changing it a little bit this year because we're not going to have any reports at the town meeting. And so we're going to do the line item budget before I recess the annual and pick up the special. So that's a slight change, but that's okay. The only person who can change the order of articles without a vote is me. The selectmen choose the order of the articles in West Newbury. That's fine with me. I'm concerned that there may be people who come to the meeting who have not been to town meeting before, who don't understand what it is, who will get disgruntled because their thing didn't come first after they asked for it to be first.
I don't disagree, but it's,
I don't
Right.
disagree either, but let's put it on our website how it's going to happen. And if people get disgruntled, we are going to have some bouncers and they'll be asked to leave.
the other, I think it's preferable than a people coming up halfway through the movie, so to speak. I think that would be worse.
Yeah, no, that's a good point, Archie. Let's assume that we do the right thing. And then the people that are coming are going to educate themselves, because we're going to make sure that we have all the information and we disseminate it to them. And we can't like worry about the onesies and twosies. I think, like you said earlier, I think, Casey, that we have a well-educated group of people that come to town meeting. And we can't worry ourselves about the ones and twosies. We need to start worrying about the masses. And I just like the ability of having it all starting at the beginning, and you then determining game day how that's going to work. And we can put that on our website. Hey guys, something like that. We're beating this to death, and we probably have another 3 hours of a meeting tonight.
Okay, so the motion on the floor at the moment is to have them start at 10, coincide.
It's been seconded.
So for no more discussion. Archibald, aye.
Kemper, aye.
Rick,
I don't hear Rick.
you're muted, Rick.
My mic is off, sorry. Aye.
Okay. Well, we got through two articles. Right? Okay. Thank you all for your input. Angus, you want to fill us in on C?
Sure. So you have in your packet the comments that have been received from boards, departments, commissions. As I think everyone is aware of, the deadline for the Board of Selectmen's comments to Mass Housing on the proposed site eligibility application for the Coffin Street 40B are due to Mass Housing next Tuesday, June 16th. Because of the volume of comments that we've received, as well as some comments that have only recently come in, And in fact, the Board of Health is scheduled to take up this item at their meeting tomorrow afternoon. Because of that, I would recommend that the Board of Selectmen schedule an extra meeting next Monday, June 15th. That will allow you time to review all of the comments that have come in since your May 14th meeting, and will allow you to review a draft comment letter that would be in your packet for next Monday. There are the only other two.
I'd also just like to say that I was very the quality of the comments from the different departments of the town is very helpful. It was for my layman's position, it was good.
And Angus, will that give you enough time if we discuss it on the 14th to be able to give, or next Monday to be able to give you enough time to turn it around, have it organized to be able to be submitted for the 16th?
Yes, as long as the draft that I put into the packet is in the ballpark of what the board is looking for. So that's where I think it's going to be important for me to get that draft to you. My goal would be by the end of the day this Wednesday. And that way, if any of the three of you have any suggestions, you can get them to me later this week. And, you know, I think the closer we can get to have something in front of the board next Monday that's in a form that's close to what you would vote, then on, you know, any revisions we could make either late Monday or during the day on Tuesday and still make the deadline.
Okay.
I mean, obviously, we'd
And then
always
you would
love.
send them to us, we would talk to you independently, and then,
Yep.
Yeah, so we should all make a point of, once we have that from you,
independently, then we would
should
on
all make
Monday.
a point of independently checking in with you. And obviously, you got a lot else on your plate, so we don't want you to have too much time, but yeah.
Well, I think because of, because of the quality of comments that others have provided, I think, I've envisioned the board's comments are going to certainly hit the high points and emphasize the points that the board wants to emphasize, but would also append to that many of these other comments, and certainly the comments that have come in from boards and commissions and department heads. So to the extent that, for example, stormwater management and the lack of accommodation that's shown on the concept plan for any kind of detention basins, that kind of thing. The board could perhaps address that fairly succinctly and then reference an attached document that elaborates in more detail. So I think there's going to be an overall package that the board's letter will be a cover letter and can elaborate as you wish, but there's going to be a huge amount of detail that's already well documented, thankfully, to others who have been working on this.
Okay, that's good. That all sounds like a plan. If we can get them by Wednesday, it's a heavy order, Angus, but for you.
Well, it's been on our work plan right along, so it's not a surprise.
Okay, so let's move on to item D. So everyone,
If I could, Archie, two related updates, just very
Okay.
briefly. I want to make everyone aware the site walk video from the May 15th site walk was posted earlier today to the town website and to the town YouTube channel. It took some time to produce that because it was a bunch of different video clips and they needed to be woven together with some either narration, or we ended up doing text descriptions of what you were looking at, so people wouldn't just be looking at woods and not know what they're looking at. So it took some time to produce all of that, but that got finalized over the weekend and that was posted today. The second thing I would just say briefly is that we did have the call with Mike Busby, the contact from Mass Housing, and Rick participated in that as well as Mike McCarron. That was last week. And my just brief synopsis of that is there were most of the items that we introduced for discussion, Mass Housing basically said those are issues that would be addressed in the local permitting process, and they wouldn't get drawn into commenting on any of that. They did take note, certainly, of our comments about the large project threshold, and they understand that that will be, featured prominently in our comment letter.
Great.
Rick, did you want to supplement that at all regarding the call with Mike Busby?
No, I think that's great, Angus. Thanks.
Great. Okay. Let's
So
move on.
just for planning purposes, and I believe we got Jen Solis on the line. Can we confirm there will be a meeting next Monday, June 15th, and can we set a start time for that?
Earlier than later, but
Earlier is great for me because the earlier you finish that meeting, the more time we have to finish the comments. Make any
are we
changes.
all available in the afternoon,
I'm wide open.
4 o'clock?
I'm available anytime.
Let's do 4.
You.
What time did you say, Archie? At 4?
Yeah.
Okay.
Make a motion that we have a meeting next Monday night at Monday afternoon at 4 o'clock.
I second that.
All in favor? Archibald,
Aye. Camper, aye.
Parker, aye.
Thank you.
Okay. Item D. So everyone grab your chart that Angus prepared of the articles. I think we'll just take them one at a time. Article 1 is hear and act upon reports of officers and committees. I would make a motion that we that all reports and of committees and should be videotaped or written and posted on the town website, that we simply cannot have those at this particular town meeting.
I think that's a great idea.
And someone that doesn't want to write it up can simply do a little video presentation on their phone, and it can be sent to the sent in that way.
If they have a question with that, they can contact me or Adam, and we can even help them with that to make sure then it gets on the town's website or YouTube or something like that. That's a great idea, Archie, and I would second that motion if that was a motion.
Yes. Further discussion on that one? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Okay, next article on the special town meeting is the large CPC spending on the paid school playground. I don't know how I feel about this. It's a worthwhile project. It's a lot of money. I wonder if it's going to engender a lot of discussion at the meeting, which is what we don't want. And the other thing is, with I know playgrounds have now been opened in I believe starting in phase 2 with the governor, but it's unlikely that the playground is going to be usable this year anyway. So I wonder if this is something we can put off. I could be persuaded either way on this one.
Well, Mr. Chairman, can I have a few seconds on this?
Yeah.
So my view, I agree with everything you just said, but then I would take the opposite approach and say that this is the time to do it because of pricing, because of demand on playgrounds. We maybe even get a bit of price, that the school's not occupied, that it will be easier for us to be able to implement it and put it into place and construct it and all those type of things. And that I feel that then, like, that the whole thing that we always talk about, it's always going to cost more money next year. And I think we all were in agreement that, that it was a need and a necessity, and that the funding's in place, and it was the CPC money. And so I don't think that's going to affect any of our capital or any of our operating budget. And I believe that this is the best time to do it because the school's not there. And this is my own opinion. I don't think the school's coming back in the fall. So even if there is some time lapse and stuff like that, that this will be all done, and it'll be done in a more efficient manner because there won't be any kids there.
Angus, do you know if you've dealt with the design a little bit more than any of us? Have you know when suppose the money was voted, when could they start shoveling stuff?
We had put a timeline in the CPC application, and other than the fact that we're now going to be a full 2 months after the initial estimated town meeting date, I think that timeline would stand. And I haven't looked at it in a little while, but my recollection, it was we were allowing certain amount of time after the vote to engage a contractor, because even though playgrounds are, we're on a pre-approved, we're part of a consortium, and the vendor we've been talking with most is on a pre-approved bid list. We had made the commitment that we would seek multiple quotes, not necessarily a full bid process, but we do want to engage multiple vendors or prospective vendors to make sure we get the best pricing. So that will take, I'd say, at least 4 to 6 weeks, perhaps more like 6. There's going to be some amount of, I won't get into that. There's some amount of lead time. So once a contractor is selected, and let's say, the design that you've seen is based on a certain manufacturer. There are other manufacturers. So once you make that decision, it can take easily 6 weeks before those materials are ordered, assembled, and delivered, because it's not just off the shelf stuff. It's all, it's custom within a family of design types. Anyhow, long story short, I think with the original town meeting date of late April, we thought it was possible, but I wouldn't say probable, that it could have been constructed by Labor Day. With the extended timeline, I think getting it done this calendar year is certainly possible, and I think likely, but I don't think it would be likely to have it constructed before mid to late fall when you account for the lead time in those aspects.
Okay. So I would take that Glenn is pro keeping it on. Rick, what's your thoughts?
I'm not going to elaborate a lot. I think we should keep it on for a host of reasons, including what Glenn said and what Angus's comments. But I think there are a host of reasons. So I would advocate for keeping it on.
Okay, fine. Third, Article 3, town building repairs, 49,000. It's most people have deemed it was deemed that this is an essential item. Anyone want to get rid of that?
Not me.
Oh, actually, Archie, I would suggest, unless maybe we can do it like if there's a hold, but only those shaded in gray on that list were the ones I thought the board would discuss, because everything else you've already discussed.
All right. Like some of the other ones are like, you can't do it. Yeah. Okay. Yes. So Article 7, the electric vehicle charging.
I'm going to speak on this. I think we should keep this on because I think we're going to lose. And one of the reasons why, I think it's a valid program. I'm not sure how much it's going to be used, but I think it's the way of moving forward. but I think we're going to lose our money, our grants. So I think it's for $8,000. I think it's very important to be able to keep this on, and so we get the grants, and then we're moving forward.
I agree.
Yeah, I agree with Glenn on all counts there. If we don't do this, we essentially give up $80,000 to $90,000 of incentives and grants, and
All we're spending is $8,000.
yeah, exactly. And it'll be a long time before we're in a position to do this, because no matter what, it's going to be an expensive proposition. This makes it as cheap as it possible.
Okay, good. So we're in agreement, leave that alone. Next one, same as above, annual town meeting, no reports.
We already voted on that, I thought.
Right. So Article 14 on the annual town meeting is the car post debt. Now, Angus, talk to me about this. I don't see any reason not to pay it, but I guess.
Can you go back on that, Archie? You froze on me. I'm sorry, you froze. What was that? I'm sorry.
Article 14 in the annual town meeting is approximately $85,000 for the debt on the car post borrowing.
Yeah,
I guess
that was my question that came about the architect.
Angus, can you speak to that?
You get my?
Yes, yep, yeah, we heard you, Glenn. I agree we should go forward. I wanted to make the board aware, I do not expect that we would need any appropriation for FY21 for the reason that the full debt service would come due 1 year after the bonds are issued. And because the bonds are not going to be issued before the end of FY20, the earliest that the first full year of debt service would come due would be early 2022, FY 2022. So for that reason, I think you could get by with a lower appropriation, but I don't see a reason to do that for a couple of reasons. For one, that 85,000 is going to be a very consistent number for the next 20 plus years. So why change it? And secondly, the appropriation will allow us to absorb costs such as if the board decides to do a bond anticipation note, that could, and in fact likely would, I mean, that would definitely have some soft costs and could have some debt service within 6 months. So I would recommend you stay the course on that.
So that my motion would be, or I don't know, my opinion would be the same
Rick?
as Angus's.
Rick, you're muted.
Thanks. Sorry about that. Yeah, I agree. We should go along with it. We should go ahead with it. It wouldn't make sense to do it for a smaller amount. If we have to take the topic up for any reason at all, we might as well take it up for the amount that's going to be a repetitive amount or fairly repetitive amount. And rather than go into a long explanation as to why it's a lesser amount and in the future it's going to be a bigger amount, just get it done.
Good point.
That's
Okay.
actually a great point, Rick, to keep it consistent and rather than try to explain some other number.
Good. Okay. So keeping that. Next one. That's updating police. This is Article 18 on the annual updating police radios for 19,000. My feeling is, yeah. I mean, if we need them updated, then we do.
It was presented to me there was a safety issue, so
Yeah.
I would say definitely.
Rick, you're muted.
I didn't, Glenn, did you mean definitely keep it or definitely?
Keep it because it was presented to us that they needed it because it was a safety issue.
Okay.
So but $19,000 in a safety issue, I mean, that's a no-brainer to me, but I want to make, that's how it was presented.
I agree with that. In fact, I agree with that on all four.
Okay,
of them.
I would feel that way about Article 19, new rescue suits for water rescue for the fire department, and also power fans for blowing smoke off. I was in favor of both of those items personally.
I agree with you on all three.
Okay.
Me too. Kemper.
Okay, the next one is the Gold Star tax abatement opt-in. I would be strongly in favor of keeping that.
Please. I don't think there's even a question on that one, but
Yeah, I mean, I can't see, I don't disagree with it. I'm just, my only question is, and I asked Angus this, and maybe this isn't relevant, but do we actually know that there's anybody in West Newbury that will qualify and take advantage of this?
No, we don't.
no. But I think it's the assessor base, correct? And I think it's just the opportunity to make sure that we have it available for somebody.
Even if we needed it 3 years from now, why not have it? Yeah.
Correct. That's the point.
Yeah, I was just thinking in
I hope we
immediate
don't
time.
need it in 3 years, but that's all.
Mhm.
Yeah,
No,
okay.
that was a good question, Rick. But yeah.
But it'll probably be less than a 5-minute conversation, I expect. I doubt that.
I can't unless Trump's there.
Right.
Understand what Gold Star means or whatever that. I would assume that it would even be quicker than that. I would like to think, but
Okay. I'm sorry to see that people that people are in favor of dog waste, but that's
Okay, Archie, let's. Because this will probably be the last time I'm not running again. So this will be I know how passionate you are. If you can keep this discussion down to 5 minutes, I'll say keep it on. But I think this will be the biggest, forget about the 40B. This will be the biggest conversation of the town meeting.
but I might be able to use smell-o-vision so that.
So what do you?
Hands.
If you can, Gary, I mean, honestly, you start talking about people's dogs. We haven't had a dog. You two haven't had a dog hearing. I've sat across from people when we had to have their dogs taken away from them years ago and taken out of town. This is a huge thing. So if you think
But having said that, it's going to be people go bananas about anything related to dogs. So
that's what I mean. It's
I
going to be a
think
2-hour discussion.
I will bring it back. But
So why don't we bring it back?
And I'm completely supportive of bringing it back. I'm just not sure this is the right meeting.
Yeah, I mean, we're looking to streamline the town meeting. This is a lightning rod.
that's why as much as it pains me, I'll let it go.
Just remember to wipe your shoes at the door.
Right. Article 24, the zoning bylaw amendments. I push for
I say
no action.
no zoning by law amendments. Nobody understands them to begin with, and it's always a huge discussion. I'd rather the dog waste thing than zoning board of amendments.
Okay. All right. So we agreed. Let that ride.
Well, actually, I saw it differently. I thought it would go through. Anything that was controversial has been removed. It's really more just clarifications at this point.
Right, but if it's not important, why can't we?
Nobody- And nobody understands them. I would just let's push it off. Push it off to the floor.
Talked a lot about it a few weeks ago. Like, is it business? Is it? And there was a lot of talking about you know, 2 acres for the horse versus 5 acres for the horse. We don't want to get into that.
And quite honestly, if they keep trying
Does anybody understand, Glenn?
coming up in the fall and then be able to really discuss it and not feel like, oh, should I say something, or because we want to try to do it, you know what I mean? Let it stand on its own merits in the fall.
I agree. My motion is to no action on this one. All in favor? Aye.
I'm
Kemper,
not, I'm nay, but that's fine.
Okay.
Glenn, was that you who seconded that?
Yes.
Correct, and I voted with Archie.
Yep, got it.
Okay, that's good. We knocked things down a little bit. Angus, do you want to go over the 112 budget, or is this something you think we can pass over? I think we could pass over.
I'd like to see you take it up next week. I have spent some time on it, and I don't have a.
Let's pass it over.
Let's pass it over. Yeah.
Good.
It was like, eat my ice cream too fast and get a headache, or talk about the 112 budget. I'd rather have my ice cream.
Next item is adding the warranty cost for the EV stations to the FY21 operating budget. Rick, do you want to speak to that?
Sure. It's really kind of an oversight at the outset that we didn't take the issue of warranty as seriously as we probably should have. And, I've talked with people involved with installation and maintenance of EV charging stations in 3 different communities: in Newburyport, Amesbury, and Melrose. The gist from all of them in the end was, yeah, you should have a maintenance plan, because they're subject to damage, and because people are connecting them to their cars and at the edge of a parking lot, and they're in the public space. So there are things that can happen, and if you don't have a maintenance plan, you end up paying for them directly. Based on the experiences these other 3 people have had, the maintenance plans have paid for themselves easily, or in certain cases would have paid for themselves if they'd taken them seriously at the outset. And instead they paid, out of town funds for repairs. So, there were various options of maintenance plans available, and I'm looking for the synopsis of those here. Essentially, in the end, what I concluded, looking at the different options, it seems to me that the best option would be to go for a 5-year plan where you pay on a yearly basis, as opposed to the other 2 options the original option there actually are about 10 different options. The original option proposed by the company that would be doing the installation was a 2-year plan. I looked at a 5-year plan, all prepaid, the 5-year plan year by year. The 5-year plan on a year-by-year basis works out to be about $1,000 a year per location. It's a couple $100 more per year, if I remember correctly, than if we paid for them for 5 years up front, but then we'd have to pay for 5 years up front. So it seemed to me as though that was the happy medium. I think it's something that we should do, though, because otherwise we're almost certain to get bit.
I have a problem with just personally. I hate warranties on just like I have a personal thing about them. Just you know, do you want an extended warranty on your refrigerator or whatever it is? I always find the opposite, that
Yeah.
they are money-making plans, cash in hand for whoever the repair vendor is. And I'm always willing to roll the dice. So that's where I differ. My other question is, do we know in the beginning, yeah, long term, this is a great thing. I'm in favor of us putting them in, but totally. But we don't even really know what the utilization of them is going to be in the next couple of years. I mean, how many EVs are there in West Newbury or surrounding towns? There's not that many.
It's like
Well,
1%, I think.
You're right that they're not that many yet, Archie, but it's the fastest growing segment of autos sold. And
So-
you know, they're going to become common. And I agree with you on the issue of, generally speaking, not, you know, if it's for my personal use, I don't buy a warranty plan. And it wasn't until I had talked with 3 different people and got essentially the same story or parallel stories for all 3 that I became really convinced that it would be foolish not to.
But if they're not getting a lot of usage initially, do you think they'll have problems?
Only if somebody runs into it.
Right. Yeah.
So I would agree with Archie. I never get these things, but I'm more, but that's a personal thing because I believe that it's a money-making scheme. But then I'm a selectman, and I'm not gonna lie that I haven't been up to date on this as much as Rick has, and I'm glad he is. And so I'm gonna have to go with Rick's recommendation on this. I would never do this personally, but as a selectman, I have a different fiduciary responsibility. And if Rick has researched it and feels this is a good idea, I have to go along with him because I don't.
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate that, Glenn.
I'm not going to pretend.
But, you know, part of the reason why at the outset we didn't really take it seriously was just what both of you have said. You know, I mean, from a personal basis, I don't buy warranty plans on an appliance or something like that. Sure, there's going to be, you know, 1 or 2 times in your life that was a bad decision, but every other time it was the right decision. You look at the net effect, and you know, you came out well ahead. But in this particular case, because of the feedback that I got from different people, you know, who have experience, it just seemed to me clear that in this case we should go ahead with a warranty. It made sense to go ahead with a warranty plan.
Okay. So the motion on so which one do you want to pick, Rick, so that we can vote that?
Right. And the reason why I thought a 5-year plan made sense is because part of the incentive that's being offered is the cost of the internet connectability and you know, the plan that allows you to do everything online with the station. There's several $100. I don't remember what the cost is per year. I think it was $4,000 or something for a 5-year plan if we had paid for it, but that was part of the subsidy that we're getting, or part of the incentive that we're getting. That's a 5-year, that incentive is for the 5-year plan there. So it seemed to make sense to me to match up the warranty with that other plan.
Are we allowed to do 5-year plans, Angus?
Sorry, I had muted myself. We cannot bind the town to a 5-year plan. So if the board recommended, my understanding of Rick's proposal is to add the funds to the operating budget, which I think I agree, if you're going to do this, is a really clean way to do it because it doesn't get into amending the warrant article. It would put it in the operating budget. What that would mean is, let's say in the FY22 operating budget, for some reason, it's kind of hard to envision this, but if for some reason the voters reduced I think it would be the town building operating expense line by that amount, and we had committed to this, I think the DPW director would still need to pay those costs, and those funds would come out of some other need, which would not be good, but I doubt that would happen.
So, but the bigger question that was asked by Archie, Mike, are you on the line? I thought we weren't supposed, I thought only specific situations that we're not able to get into any contracts over our term of our thing, which would be 3 years. So can we do it for 5 years?
Does Mike have a comment on that?
Yeah, that's what I was asking the question to. I thought we couldn't get into anything over 3 years, other than specific things.
It's supposed to be 3 years without a vote. I guess but with a vote of the town meeting would allow it. So I guess if you had it as a budget item that was referred to this, and it was approved for 5 years, then it would be okay.
Okay, that's it then. That's the
If
question.
town meeting is voting this money for this purpose, then you can have up to a 5-year contract.
You okay? Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
Okay, so Rick, you want to make the motion?
Sure. I move that we purchase the 5-year maintenance plan, and I'm having trouble finding that page in this packet.
It's page 54 of your packet, Rick.
Thanks, Angus. Yeah, I move that we purchase the 5-year committed assurance plan for the EV charging stations at a total cost of $59.90, which is $1,198 per year.
Second.
Is that $11.98 for each station or the total bunch?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, good point. That's per station.
No, you want to be happy. Well, hold on. That's per $11,000 per station?
No, that's per site, not per station, because there's 2 stations with 2 plugs at each site. So that's per site.
Okay.
The sites of the 1910 building and the Page School.
So it's theoretically it's 22. Just say $23,000 a year.
That's 24. Less.
No, 1,100, not 11,000. I think, Glenn, I think you added a 0.
Okay, thank you. Okay,
1,100 per station or 1,100 per site?
Site.
Per site. $1,198 per site per year.
Okay.
Because if you read the 3 lines up, it says 2,800 per site.
That was for the 2-year program.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
So-
it reduces because you got into a 5-year one.
Okay.
So I second that.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Well, Archie, you sound like you got a question mark there. So,
No, I'm gonna support it. I just wanted to make sure that it is actually just 2,300 or whatever it is, 2,400 a year. I can live with that.
yeah, okay. Well, I will confirm that. But I'm pretty confident that that's correct.
Okay.
I'm 98% confident that I've interpreted everything right.
Okay. All right, good. Consideration to Article G, as in goat, to extend the FY20 Board and Commission Committee appointment terms through June 30th. I think at the moment, that's a no-brainer. I would recommend that we do that.
Hey, Archie, if we could, I think I took your assent as, I think it was clear all 3 of you were in favor, but I didn't hear an actual vote on that last one.
Camper,
Yeah, we all
Camper,
voted.
aye.
Okay,
Camper, aye.
good. And then the other reason I wanted to jump in was just to make sure you were aware that because what you've just voted is a proposed increase in the operating budget, that when the DPW town building operating expenses line comes up in the budget review, that will require a hold and an amended motion to add that roughly $2,400 to that line item, which is fine. I just want to make sure you're aware of that.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay,
So, and we'll make sure FinCom's aware that that's coming there. So.
okay, where were we? Oh, committees. Okay, so Angus has proposed that in the interest of just continuity and so forth, and giving us a little bit more breathing room, that we extend all the committee appointments that normally zero out at June 15th to June 30th, and that's a pretty.
So moved.
Okay, I'll second, and when Archie says discussion, I have a question.
Go ahead, discussion, yeah.
Okay, how do we ever end up at June 15th?
Joe,
I guess as the guy that's been here the longest, it's been everywhere. It's been June. It was actually, I think, at the end of May, like June 1st, and then we made it June 15th. It's I don't. There is no concrete reason why we can't change it. It was just an arbitrary, just a date. So there's no.
Glenn, I think Joe liked that day for some reason.
Yeah, exactly. There was no real thought behind it. It was just June 15th. I think it used to be June 1st, and we gave, the office a little bit more time. Now, during this discussion, and this is, I think we should take up at a later date, but we have all these committees that we just keep on reappointing, and just boom, 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 boom. We need to maybe take a hard look at them and maybe not reappoint them, not just because they're not useful, or the people, they haven't met in 4 years. And then on the second one, that we need to start looking at the charges of these committees, that we appoint these committees and then we should incorporate the charges, not them back to us. And that could be, I'm not looking to get this done in a month or two, but maybe work with Angus, work with the department, kind of look at these committees and just, we don't need to have it any longer. And because, and then really look at the charge of these committees. So we have a good understanding when they come back, maybe like a committee goes to another, a committee or goes to another department head, and then they go, why are you here? That wasn't your charge to begin with. You know what I mean by that? I think we do that.
I agree with all of that, Glenn. That's one of the reasons we were swamped with stuff, but at some point I'd like to have a sort of a thing where at least the chairman of committees of all the committees come together with Angus and the selectmen and so forth, and we have like a big picture, like
you wanted to do that last year.
I know,
if I remember correctly.
Get to it. There was just too much going on, but people, Rob Phillips made a comment about it, and he's completely right. The committees sometimes work in their own insular little area, and they have no idea about the big picture of what's going on in the town and how they might actually, instead of helping the town, maybe they're slowing down things that in other areas need growth. That's all. So we can't get into this now, but it has to
but I just wanted to bring it up since we were talking about it for a future discussion. Like I said, it wasn't going to happen in the first month, in the next month or two. But my motion still stands that we extend all appointments until June 30th. That's the real motion.
And I would add one other comment to anybody that's listening, and so it gets out there. we have two people leaving from one of our most important committees, the FinCom, and that's a committee that actually works during this. They have things to do all year round. So anybody that thinks they might be interested in joining the FinCom, that's something to take a look at, and that's a committee that we're not going to disband. Every town in Massachusetts has one, and we need to populate the FinCom.
Before we take this vote, can we say that we're going to talk about these committees and charges and what we should do in the fall, at least?
Yes.
That I would ask Angus to put this on, or whomever, the chairperson, to put this on in September and October, or maybe even earlier, whenever he sees fit that there's enough time after all this COVID stuff, off the budget stuff and all, building the water tower, building the school, whatever, but just to have it there as one of those, maybe not an A item, but a B item, to have some discussion. So when we come around next year, we've discussed it, it's been all thought out, and we've taken care of it.
Agreed. Let's try and let's not forget.
Mm-hmm.
Great. That makes a lot of sense.
So all in favor of extending the existing appointments through June 30th? Aye.
Kemper, aye.
Parker, aye.
Approval of stipends for election workers. Mike, you can speak to this, but I don't see any reason to have any discussion. I'm in favor of it.
No.
myself.
Yeah. So moved.
I'm in favor of it too, but I have one question. I gotta find that page. I don't think the numbers added up right. And maybe there's an explanation.
I didn't add them up, so
I could have not added it up right. That's a possibility.
Yeah, I think they added up to I can't find it, but I think they
Yes.
added up to $1,250, and it was in for a total of $1,190. So I was just wondering,
Oh.
it's only a $60 difference, but I was wondering what I was doing wrong.
No, I could have definitely. I tried to put this out quickly so it get to you. So, and I think that there were some changes to some, in my original math. So I definitely could have made a mistake.
So this falls somewhere in the
But
range.
the
of-
amounts that go to the individuals are the correct amounts.
Multiple answers.
Excuse me? No,
This-
the amounts that go to the individuals, that's what you're voting.
Okay.
You're not voting my math. You're voting
Yeah.
voting for the individuals.
Okay.
Okay, good. So I made that motion.
A second.
All in favor? Archibald, aye.
Kemper, aye.
Parker, aye. Just joking, Mike.
It's very possible.
Where are we?
Archie, I think that should have been batched with G. G and I are both
Yeah.
sides of the same issue. I think you've already talked about that one.
Yeah. Okay. So you talked to us about J. We need to make any decisions about that, or
The only issue that was there for
yeah.
some policy direction was the library curbside, which you already took up early in the meeting. When we posted the agenda, I didn't know if I might have a updated draft. I don't yet have an updated draft, so that's still a work in progress. There's collaboration among different department heads, and as you know, new guidance coming out every couple of hours. So we're trying to process all of that. But that's something we could have on for the board's meeting from tonight.
Question
We could have
about
an update.
Go ahead, Glenn.
Rather than wasting time talking about new whatever's coming every hour, which I agree on, why don't we, so you don't have to do extra work, status quo until this date, and then we're going to revisit it. I mean, something like that. Like, why don't we keep the status quo until June 22nd, and we can take a revote then, or whenever you want to do it, just so you don't have to waste time on every update that comes down the line, and then you can just, gather all those updates and all those things from the governor or whomever else in legislation, and then present it to us at a time certain. You know what I mean by that? Just so you don't waste in time.
I do. It's such a dynamic area because there's so many facets to it. Just in the last, day or two, there's obviously, we continually get questions about playgrounds and parks, of course. But even something as nuanced as like with the Council on Aging and the salon services for the nail care, that's really an essential service for a lot of people. So I guess there's some things, let's leave it this way if the board agrees. If something comes up that needs a board vote, I would put it on the agenda. If not, it would just, you can just know that we're working away in the background on this stuff.
Sounds good.
Because a lot of this really does, some of it falls to the Board of Health to set policy, and they've.
Exactly. We're not the ones. We could say what we want to do and they could supersede us. So.
That's right. And they've got a very, very busy agenda for their meeting tomorrow at 4:30.
Glenn, do you need a manicure?
No, but I need my back waxed.
Okay, so we made a motion to in executive session to discuss the memorandum of understanding between the town and the city of Newburyport related to rebuilding the Middle Street Bridge, and that is not in the packet. We can
but I think we're all familiar. Because
No, just for the sake of the public, like if
okay.
you wanted to see what we were voting on, we have to produce that, but
Make a motion that we would approve the current memorandum of understanding with the city of Newburyport that we have, and that we would sign that and send it to them by the end of the week.
I'll second that.
further discussion? All in favor? Archibald, aye.
Kemper, aye.
Butler, aye.
Okay, our last item is. Okay,
What's that?
Say that again.
you didn't.
You're
I can't
frozen.
hear. Angus, could you hear Glenn?
No,
I haven't said anything.
Oh, okay, somebody did, okay. Now, after the town election, usually the Board of Selectmen reorganizes. So I would take any motions on the floor.
I have been quite happy with the way Archie has run things for the last year, and I would nominate Dave Archibald as chairman for another year.
I would second that.
Are you willing to take it on?
Yeah, that actually was my question. You want to do it again, Archie?
Okay.
Good. It's been a good year, and you're steady, growing, well thought out. It's good. It's been working extremely well.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Kemper, aye.
Parker, aye.
Abstain.
Make a motion to adjourn?
Well, we have meeting minutes from May 14th.
Yes.
yes.
I would make a motion. I read those. Those were, I had no problems. I would make a motion to approve the minutes of May 14th as presented.
And I would second that. And it's just you and me voting.
Archibald, aye.
Parker, aye. Before we
Abstain.
adjourn, sorry, Glenn, I didn't let you say that.
I think Glenn has to abstain on that one.
Yeah, that's what he said. I cut him off. Sorry about that, Glenn. Before we adjourn, I just have, I guess, this would fall under new business. And it's kind of a follow-on to what Archie said at the outset, talking about the difficulties that we're seeing as a country right now. And how, in the end, we need to all work together and talk and communicate. And I had one person in town, and I suspect there are others who would have a similar question. And I'm going to actually preface the question with saying that I have the utmost respect and confidence in the integrity of our police department, and everybody I've met is great, and they all seem to be very level-headed. And I can't imagine anything happening here like happened in Minneapolis. But I was asked by somebody, do I know what the policy is of the West Newbury Police for use of force? Now, as far as I know, there's never been a use of force by the West Newbury Police Department. But
No, I would disagree with that. A use of force has a bigger thing. Anytime they take somebody into custody, there is some type of use of force if it's not verbally or not physically. So
Okay.
Probably the best thing we'd do is at our next meeting, have our chief explain that to us.
Okay, that's essentially where I was going with this. Is
How about, that's an excellent suggestion. How about that the chief describe what kind of training the West Newbury Police receive in the use of force?
and what our protocols are for use of force. And again, I can't imagine anything happening here.
This is very
like
specific because we are in force. So this is very specific. Yep. So I would say that
Anybody here, Glenn?
probably would be good because we have a good understanding. Anybody hear me?
No?
Now we lost you there for a bit. Okay.
Glenn, can you try repeating that and see if we can hear it this time?
I said
I don't know.
We didn't catch that.
I think good question, Rick. Specific uses of force.
I think the Aurora Borealis has.
Am I going in and out?
Yes.
Post it out. Yeah, it's strange. You were really clear earlier, but now not so. Oh, he just signed off.
Okay, my guess is he's gonna try calling back right away.
Yeah.
Okay, Angus, you can just give us the town manager updates.
Sure.
briefly.
Well, I just want to make one point is
Okay.
that under the Strong Chief Act, there are rules and regulations that the chief proposes for all type of police action, and there's a whole manual on police procedures in West Newbury, and those procedures are approved by the Board of Selectmen. So you definitely have a role in determining the procedures for the police within the town.
Even under the Strong Chief Act.
The chief proposes the rules, but you have to approve them. So I'm sure that part of that approval process is obviously your input into what should be there.
Does that mean that there are already an existing set of rules that we have hidden away somewhere?
Well, they're not
Yes,
hidden.
yes,
They're not.
there is
Yeah, they're not
definitely.
hidden away because we are accredited. It's very specific when we got accredited how we have to act as a police. You can hear me now?
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
Yeah.
Fair
So I think what I said earlier, Rick, I've been asked the same questions, and I think it would be I think it's very timely. I think we should ask our chief to come in and explain that. There are use of force goes from verbal to physical to things that that are horrible that are happening in this country. So I think it would be good for our police chief to explain the procedures and the protocols that are already in place by pulling somebody over or dealing with an agitated individual or such. But I don't think I think it should be more of an informative thing for us to understand rather than a cross-examination and trying to tell them how to run their department.
No, this is informative.
Yep, I think it's great, Rick, that you brought it up, and I think we should ask our chief for first thing on our meeting just to explain how they handle use of force. Because remember, since I've been a selectman, we've kind of gone through, we never had tasers before.
Right.
When I first started. So there are degrees of force that, that we need to know. I was never in favor of tasers in a small town like this, but that's not a selectman's call. So you know what I mean? There are different things that probably that need to be discussed so people have a good understanding. And I think that is a good question, Rick, and I think we should ask the chief to come in at our next meeting.
That's great.
Our next meeting is in a week from tonight or 2 weeks from
Correct.
tonight?
Correct.
Yeah.
I think something like this is timely.
I think,
we shouldn't have put him on the spot and asked him tonight, but ask him to come in at our next scheduled meeting, which would be Monday, and allot a half an hour of him discussing, us asking questions, and have some type of dialogue, and then that's it.
Okay, I agree with you very much in principle, obviously, because I brought the topic up. Glenn, I guess from a time standpoint, we need to make sure that it doesn't impact our ability to get the other business done that we were having a special meeting for.
You know what, Rick, I agree with you, and I'm not going to I don't want to make light on your thing, but you know what? There's nothing more timely than having him come in, or I think more important, because I've been asked the question again, and I think it's important to do this.
let's do it now. Yeah.
I think it's even more important than the 40B, quite honestly, for people right now. And and this has nothing to do against the 40B, but it's important.
Yeah, there's no question about that. It's a big deal.
Okay.
So I would make a motion that we would ask the chief to come in to have a general discussion about use of force in the protocols that are behind that, or rules and regulations at our next meeting.
And it's not going to be a cross-examination or
Absolutely not.
informative, and also I think definitely not longer than half an hour. No.
Correct.
Okay, I'll second.
I'm glad you brought that up, Rick.
But yeah, okay. All in favor? Aye.
All right.
Kemper, aye. Make a motion to adjourn.
We just wanted to give the bad news that we weren't able to change the speed limit.
What? Oh, yeah, that's right.
The Mass DOT, just so that people know, we were unable to change the speed limit that we tried to lower on Bridge Street. They felt that the average speed that people go on there now is the usual speed, and so that lowering it would make 80% of the people driving on the road in violation of the speed limit, and they feel that the people drive in relation to the area and as it is, that they drive as safely as they think is necessary, and the DOT sort of takes the average speed as what the speed of the road should be. So we tried, but at the moment, they're not going to change it.
Nope. Okay, make a motion to adjourn.
Okay, second.
All in
Good night,
favor?
everyone.
Thank you,
Pepper, aye.
Randy, for all your work.
Night.